Finally, after several rounds of debate, ICC agreed to host the World Cup outside England, mainly due to the strategic plan and the suggestion of world champion nation India. So, the fourth World Cup, also known as Reliance Cup 1987, was held from October 8 till November 8 in India and Pakistan. Also, this is the first time the competition hosting was dividing among two major cricketing nations. Match format was same as the previous edition of the World Cup. 8 teams were divided among 2 groups. And within the group each team composite with all other teams in round-robin manner, 2 times, followed by semi-final and final. Which gives total number of matches count to 27. Due to shorter daylight hours of the continent compared to English summer daytime, overs were limited to 50 overs per side. In the previous 3 editions each team got 60 overs for their innings.
274. And I've never seen cricketers move as quickly, gathering the sacred stumps. The charge of the brigade over. A win for...
Also, for the first time neutral umpires came into the picture. During this period there were not much confidence on subcontinent umpire decisions. 7 test-playing nations and the 1986 ICC trophy winner Zimbabwe compositing each other in the tournament. These 8 teams were divided into 2 groups, winner and the runner-up in each group will advance to semis and then to the finals. Compared to Group B, Group A was somewhat one-sided lineup. Defending world champions India was a clear shot for next round. Australia side was too young and New Zealand will not be a big challenge for them in the current playing conditions. On the other hand, Group B will the group of death. Imran is eyeing to hold the World Cup in front of his home crowd. England was a so balanced team compared to previous editions, outside their home soil. Even though they are not strong like previous days, you cannot predict the strength of mighty West Indians. They are the only team played in all 3 finals in previous editions. Having said that, young Sri Lankans having a very little chance to advance to next level even before the tour kick starts. Winning the World Cup under Kapil Dev's captaincy in 1983 was a major milestone in Indian cricketing history. For the tournament they came from nowhere and finally become tournament champs.
And here's a man who's been largely responsible for it over the last 2 weeks. Skipped the side quite beautifully and made his own contributions with bat and ball.
Some said it was one bad day for West Indies and it turns into India's way because of their luck. 5-0 one-day series clean sweep and 3-0 test sweep in front of India's own spectators from West Indies soon after the World Cup gave some justification to above statement. But India showcases the world that it was temporary drop of performance. Step by step they build their confidence and raise up as a strong pillar among other cricketing nations.
Beautifully hit. Magnificent piece of timing. Tahir was looking for the Yorker.
And that was a red off, but Pakistan got Illa forward. It brings up his 50 and 64 deliveries, a great knock.
2 sixes and 3 fours.
He's hit it over mid-off. It's a great hit. It's going out towards the fence. One bounce and stop short. Runs into the gutter.
Winning Benson and Hedges World Championship in 1985 was one such occasion. Between the times Indian captaincy shifted back and forth between Kapil Dev and Sunil Gavaskar. But it stays with Kapil during the time 1987 World Cup starts.
Cricket trophy.
India's win of 1983 gives high hopes to Imran Khan. Under his captaincy, Pakistan team becomes stronger and stronger. Pakistan honored several victories under Imran's leadership. Winning a test series in England, drawing a test series with West Indies, winning Champions Trophy at Sharjah are few of those victories.
By Imran Khan.
He commanding to the most lethal bowling attack of the competition, so in Group B he has a good chance to advance to next level.
A late swinging Yorker.
Wilkerson seeming pretty intent upon picking up those quick runs.
Oh, and he's knocked the stumps out of the ground again. The young left-hander's delighted, and so's his captain.
Meanwhile, their neighboring country Sri Lanka were undergoing a rough patch during this period. They were just 5 years old in Test arena. Once they were a blossoming cricketing nation with 2 Test wins and Asia Cup in their cabinet. but it was the time they are suffering with civil war caused by LTTE. Before the World Cup, New Zealand visits Sri Lanka as their second Sri Lankan tour in the history. Originally it was 3 tests and 4 one-day internationals scheduled to play. But after the historical first test, entire tour has to be called off, because a bomb blast happened near their hotel. It was a real unfortunate time for Sri Lanka cricket as well as the Lion Nation. First test, the only game played, ended up in a draw. Test debutant Brendan Kurupia batted 777 minutes and scored first ever Sri Lankan double century. All-rounder Hadley scored his highest score of 151 runs not out along with his skipper, Jeff Crow, who scored 120. Kurupia, the wicket-keeper of the Sri Lankan team, came to bat as the opener. He batted throughout the innings not out, and soon after that he kept wicket till test match closure in New Zealand first innings. Which lead to one interesting record as the only player who wear pads in all 5 days of the game, that too in his debut. Since the tour called off, Sri Lanka had to drop a golden opportunity to get some training before World Cup starts. Sri Lanka competes in World Cup from inaugural tournament onwards. Back in 1975 Anura Tennakoon led the side and they were associate nation at that period. Despite the bravery effort against mighty Australia, even though they lost, young Sri Lankan team was unable to showcase any match-winning effort and they lost all 3 games and positioned the last place in the group. Again, Anura led the side in 1979 and he got injured after the first match against New Zealand and vice-captain Bandula called to take up the driving seat. Under his captaincy his first match was called off due to bad weather condition. But they shocked the world in the next match after beating Indian team. That is the first time ICC associate nation beats the full member team, and with that gallant effort they complete the series, sealing 3rd position in the group. Current Sri Lankan team captain Duleep Mendes was the captain for the 1983 competition as well. At that period Sri Lanka participate the tour as a full member and they played 6 matches and lost 5 and won a match against New Zealand in Derby. In these World Cups Sri Lanka managed to score above 250 runs only 3 occasions only. Would like to remind you that first 3 World Cups a side has to play 60 overs. Despite this 3 250-plus innings, Sri Lanka able to cross 200 marks only 3 times, but only one occasion they were able to defend it successfully. Weak bowling performances lead other teams to score huge totals against Sri Lanka. 5 occasions oppositions scored 300-plus scores against Sri Lanka. This is including world record score of 338 for 5 wickets scored by Pakistan in 1983. Apart from Pakistan, England's 333 for 9 in 1983 was the 3rd ever highest score among top totals lists. Australia's 328 for 5 is the score they made in their first encounter with Sri Lanka, is still their best ever one-day international score. Current skipper Duleep Mendes, who represented Sri Lanka for 3 World Cups, hold the number 1 position in the most runs list. Only Roy Dias passed the 200-run marks after Duleep. 5 batsmen were able to score 250s. After participating 3 World Cups, still none of the Sri Lankan player able to score a single century. Brendan Kurupia scored 72 against Pakistan in 1983. In the list 64 runs not out in 50 innings of Roy Dias in 1983 and 1979, 67 of Sunil Wedamuni and 64 runs innings of Duleep Mendes in 1979 are match-winning performances. On their 12 games so far, Sri Lanka has scored 14 50s. On the other hand, 3 batsmen were able to score 100-plus runs against Sri Lanka. David Gower's 130 was the best against Sri Lanka in World Cup so far. In addition to these 3 centuries, other batsmen were able to score half-centuries in 16 times. Medium-fast bowlers dominate the highest wicket-taking list. Due to his superb performance in 1983, Asantha Damel holding the topmost position with 17 wickets including 2 5-wicket holes. DS De Silva, who played first 3 World Cups, holding the 2nd position, is the only other bowler who held 10 wickets. Due to his 2 5-wicket holes, undoubtedly Asantha seals the first 2 slots. Along with him 3 other bowlers able to grab 3 wickets each in an innings, and 10 occasions Sri Lankan bowler able to grab 2 wickets during his spell. Sir Richard Hadley, Vic Marks, and Abdul Qadir grabs 5-wicket holes against Sri Lankan batting lineup, and all these 3 occasions happened in 1983 World Cup. 2 times a West Indies paceman and English paceman took 4 wickets each, and multiple bowlers able to grab 3 wickets in their spells. Guida Always mastering behind the wickets by taking 5 catches. One notable instance is that the wicket-keeper Ranjith Fernando was not able to contribute to a single dismissal in the inaugural tournament. Also, none of the Sri Lankan keeper took a stumping so far. Roy Dias leading the field by securing 5 catches including 2 catches in single match. 5 other Sri Lankan fielders took 3 catches during their tenures in World Cups. Sri Lanka batting partnerships are not that impressive. There are no single 100 runs stand for any wicket. Best was the 96 runs stand between Sunil Wethamuni and Roy Dias in the historical match against India. Wicket-keeper Guida Alves contributes with the bat in 2 occasions by putting 54 runs to the 8th wicket 2 times with the help of DS De Silva and Asantha Damel against Pakistan and England respectively. 182 runs for the first wicket stand put by Alan Turner and Rick McCosker were a world record. Despite that, there were another 3 century stands for 2nd, 4th, and 6th wickets. Due to the record partnership for the 10th wicket, New Zealand were able to delay the Sri Lankan victory for a short period. Duleep Mendes was fortunate to lead the team to World Cup for the 2nd time. Sri Lankan batting lineup contains experienced Roy Dias, Madugal, Arjuna and Ravinda, both Duleep and Roy represent Sri Lanka from the first World Cup run. Jun played the 1979 and 1983 editions and young Arjuna and Brendan took part in 1983 series. This is World Cup debut for Sri Lankan star batsman Ravinda De Silva. Sri Lankan bowling department lead by experienced fast bowler Asantha Damel. Mel played a major role in 1983 World Cup by grabbing 17 wickets in his 6 games, ended up as 2nd highest wicket taker in the list last time. This is the first World Cup for Sri Lankan all-rounder Ravi Ratnayaka. His appearance will give a good support for Ramesh and Asantha. Vinodhan has called to the side as an extra protection for fast bowling squad. Subcontinental pitches are spin-friendly, so Sri Lankan team included 2 spinners Anuraziri and Jagannathan to strengthen their bowling department. From Sri Lankan squad they dropped both fast bowlers Green Labrui and Kosala Kurapuraki. And both of them were replaced by left-arm orthodox Sritharan Jagannathan and fast medium bowler Vinodhan John. Both have not represented Sri Lanka for some time. John played his last match nearly 2 years ago and Jagannathan 4 years ago. Also they dropped their usual wicket-keeper Guida Alves and appoint Brendan as the permanent keeper for the tour. Undoubtedly Duleep Mendes was the most experienced player in Sri Lanka squad and he played in all World Cup editions so far. He is the highest run getter for Sri Lanka in World Cups including 2 50s. He was the man of the match in Sri Lanka's famous first ever one-day victory against India in 1979. This time the tournament happened in similar conditions to Sri Lanka. So, Duleep is aiming to go for more than 1 win this time. Roy Dias too represents all editions in the World Cups. But in the inaugural tour he has not got opportunity to play a single game and he has to warm the bench as an extra player. But he showcases his ability in one-day games in 1979 and 1983 editions. In his 8 games he scored 225 runs and ranked 2nd, only after Duleep. Sri Lankan stylish middle-order batsman Madugal entering to World Cup stage for the 3rd time. He too was lucky to be in playing 11 in the match against India in 1979 as a youngster. So far he has scored only 150 in World Cups and he might be a useful asset in this subcontinental conditions. Arjuna entering the competition for the 2nd time. Even though he played all 6 games in 1983, it was not a successful tour for him. As an energetic young all-rounder, he was able to score 80 runs and took 1 wicket, which not correctly reflects his ability. This spin-friendly conditions might make a difference for his statistics this time. Brendan hit 2 fine 50s in 1983 edition. He is holding the highest score in World Cup as individual for Sri Lanka. He has more responsibilities in his shoulder this time. In addition to play as an opening batsman, this time he has to play as the permanent wicket-keeper in the side. Double century in the test against New Zealand will be a major achievement to up his morale this time. Asantha marked his name in the World Cup records in 1983 edition. He was listed as the 2nd highest wicket taker, only 1 wicket after Roger Binny. Binny played for world champion India and played 2 more games than Asantha. He is aiming to repeat the same in this edition and pace of Pakistan pitches will be his main weapon. Sri Lankan all-rounder Ramesh Ratnayak too had somewhat good tour in 1983 edition. In the bat he scored 54 runs and took 8 wickets. He gained lots of experience in between these 2 titles and should be a good asset for the team. Vinodhan John played 5 games in 1983 World Cup and took 3 wickets. He was dropped from Sri Lankan squad now for nearly 2 years. He won some confidence from Sri Lanka cricket board and he will come into the pitch to maintain it to go for few more rounds after the World Cup ends as well. Apart from these 14 players, another gentleman got opportunity to step into the ground behalf of Sri Lanka. PW Vidanagamage was that luckiest person. Since ICC decided to host this tournament with the help of neutral umpires, he got the opportunity to represent behalf of Sri Lanka. He was officiated to umpire 4 World Cup matches including a game against England and West Indies. He secures his place in Sri Lankan record books as the first Sri Lankan umpire to officiate in World Cups. Sri Lanka compositing in the group of death, Group B, along with Pakistan, England, and West Indies. So in group stage they have to undergo 6 matches. Due to the schedule, Sri Lanka has to cross the border back and forth few times. They are starting the competition meeting Pakistan in Hyderabad in Sindh province of Pakistan as the opening game on October 8th. After that they will meet mighty West Indies at Karachi on October 13th. After that they will meet England on their 3rd game at Peshawar, the northwest frontier of Pakistan, on October 17th. For the 4th game they have to cross borders, to meet West Indies at Kanpur, central India on October 21st. Soon after the match again they have to fly back to Faisalabad, Pakistan to meet hosting nation Pakistan on October 25th. Again, to participate their last game they have to fly down to Pune, India, to play against England on October 30th. It will be some hectic tour to travel back and forth, especially with the conditions in 1987. But for this young side it will be another good experience. Let's see how they handle the Group B challenge from next episode onwards.